Hi, my name is Nancy Eisman, and I'm an individual, marital, and family therapist at Healing Hearts of Indy Counseling in Indianapolis, Indiana. And today the title of my video is Two Sides of the Same Coin. I've been thinking a lot this week about cutoff and enmeshment. Cutoff is described as relational distancing, and enmeshment can be described as relational pursuing. I've discussed and described them before not long ago in a video entitled Differentiation 101. Today I want to talk about two ideas that seem to be such opposites. So let's start with enmeshment. This is an emotional over-closeness that is actually invasive and demanding of your relational partner. It puts a lot of pressure on others to constantly think well of you so that you can feel okay about yourself. It asks them to take responsibility for and do a job that should actually be done by you, inside of you. It illuminates a lack of personal sense of self-worth, which is the painful wound in the heart. The more someone is able to accept and love themselves, the less they need to enmesh with a partner, the less hurt they are when someone thinks badly of them, and the less invasive they become. So then there's cutoff. This is an emotional over-distance that is abandoning and judgmental of your relational partner. It hits them at the very core of their wounds. It helps to entrench the victim mentality. It is used as a wall by folks who do not have the ability to have boundaries or admit their own mistakes are part of the problem. They are terrified of admitting wrongdoing because of overwhelming shame. It is an attempt to draw a line between perceived all good and all evil. The more one is able to be humble and admit their imperfections, the less they need to blame someone else for wrongdoing, and the more gentle, loving, graceful, and willing to stay put and discuss things they become. In both cases, the person doesn't have a healthy sense of self-worth. They simply have different ways of coping with it. The wound was inflicted from different angles, abandonment for the enmesher, and shame for the one who cuts off. So the coping mechanisms are opposite, yet equally balanced. Everyone with abandonment has a shame core, and everyone with shame has an abandonment core. Which voice sounds most like the one in your head? This one. Everyone in my life has told me that I'm not good enough, which is shame. And the core truth, I'm not lovable, so everyone will leave me, which is abandonment. Or, nobody in my life ever paid enough attention to me, which is abandonment. And there's the core truth of, everyone ignored me, so I'm not lovable, which is shame. Usually, one is bigger and more prominent, but it has the other at the core. So if we have a person who is enmeshed, they are looking to someone else for affirmation. If that person does not give it in some perceived way, what happens? The enmesher cuts off. They say, if you don't think I'm good enough, then get away from me. And if we have a person who is cut off, they are trying to hold others at arm's length. And why? Because otherwise you might challenge my self-perception or my wall that I'm good enough. See how enmeshed that is? That they can be so wounded and defensive by the other's perception of them? I say wall because they don't really believe they're good enough. It's an overcompensation. If they really did believe they were okay, they would not need to be reactive. Enmeshment and cutoff are so closely related to one another that they really are two sides of the same coin, and they are responsible for a whole lot of the relational dance between people. And we're not just talking about individuals here. Families can have enmeshment and cutoff with other families. Organizations can do the dance of enmeshment and cutoff. Regions, cultures, and even countries can have these systems going on. Once this relational truth can be seen, it can be applied and seen everywhere. So what, pray tell, is the cure, you ask? Self-acceptance. Not in a narcissistic, self-protecting, and coping kind of way, but in a humble and grace-filled way. true differentiation. Pretty difficult for most folks because we tend to take our cues for whether we're worthy or not from other walking wounded humans who are far from perfect, like our parents, our siblings, our friends, professionals, or even our own harsh and judgmental internal voices. And we learn to do it when we're little kids and we take everything personally when it's not. Then we carry it right on into adulthood, revisiting the time of the wounding, grieving what we didn't get, reparenting ourselves, and learning to recognize and not take other stuff personally are all lessons along the path towards self-acceptance and a new peaceful interior in your mind. It's not a fun path, it's not an easy path, but it is a necessary one. Now, you have a few choices here. Number one, you can keep standing at the trailhead, getting repeatedly beaten up by your own brand of thugs, issues, waiting for life to drag you down the long, dark, painful path, kicking and screaming, prodding you along with a baseball bat. Number two, you can crawl it slowly, hesitantly, alone, and feeling around in the dark, scraping your skin on every rock and branch. Or three, you can walk it carefully and willingly, maybe even with an experienced guide who has a flashlight, a gifted therapist. Life will make you go. It's up to you to decide what you want the trip to be like. You need help? I sure did. I'm so thankful for all the help I received that I decided to be a therapist for a living. Drop me a line at Nancy, Nancy, at healingheartsofindy.com, and I'll help you gear up and set out on the walk through your dark valley. If you like my work, please feel free to share it on social media or email the link to someone that you know who might enjoy it. Thank you very much for supporting my work.